So I would just like to bring us to the fact that the theme for the World Oceans Day is land restoration, the World Environment Day is land restoration, desertification, and drought resilience. And if I may add here that the land and oceans interaction is all well known to us, be it the monsoon systems that impacts all of us, it's the water cycle systems, is the El Nino and La Nina that we talk about. So land and water is very closely connected. So if we are talking about the oceans, we are also talking about the other ecosystems that's interconnected. And as um, Joel Ruth has already spoken about, it's the whole systems and the ecosystem approach. So we cannot talk about the oceans and the land in isolation when we are talking about the whole planetary crisis that we are into, which actually is all about climate change, biodiversity loss, and pollution. So they're all interconnected. So once they're interconnected, so the land and the ocean interconnect is even more strengthened. So today, when we talk about oceans, when we talk about underwater domain, we should also remember that there are forests, there's also land, there's the seabed that we are trying to know more about. And also, as Kamoto Pika Srivastav said, that the deep oceans we are mapping, and I think almost 90% of the seabed sea flow has been mapped by now by various agencies globally, and that's a way forward to going. But we are also seeing that the biodiversity that we know underwater is very little that we know of, actually. And there's a lot more to discover and a lot more to know. And while we are sitting in the decade of ecosystem restoration, probably we should look at the sea floor restorations and how we can also protect the underwater domain from various stresses and various pollutions. One of them was the noise pollution, which Arnab so clearly mentioned. And how can we mitigate that? How can we reduce the impacts of the underwater domain and the pollutions and the impacts that the organisms, the big creatures, the big mammals, the sharks and the fishes, and it impacts us all through the food system, through our biomedical explorations that we are looking at the prospecting. So it's all interconnected. And if I may say that the UNESCO recently launched the State of the Ocean Report 2024, and it has actually noted that the rate of the ocean warming has doubled in the last 20 years. The rate of the sea level rise has doubled in the last 30 years. So once this happens, then we are also going to lose our coastal land to the sea level rise. So we will have erosions. We will be losing our island systems, which are low-lying areas. So there's a lot of interactions between the oceans and the land that we're going to see. And it's going to impact the biodiversity both in the marine ecosystem and the land ecosystem. When I talk about coastal land degradation, it could be through ingress of salt water, it could be through aquaculture practices that we are doing. Losing our coastal agricultural land to aquaculture has been noticed in many areas, and that whole salinization has actually led to a loss of livelihoods. And it has been noted that only through nature-based solutions, through ecosystem-based approach, do we see those solutions coming up, those innovative approaches coming up where we can protect our coasts, where we can protect our livelihoods, and we can protect the people and build resilient of the communities. And here, mangrove plantations, protecting our corals, seagrass beds, seaweeds is one of the main factors which comes within the nature-based solutions, and many projects are actually linked to all of these as we see around us. The World Oceans Day, which is coming up on the 8th, is called Waves of Change, that the theme is the Waves of Change, collective action for the ocean. And I think the entire theme is what we have been talking about, and what are the actions that we need to take so as we can safeguard not just our marine ecosystem, our coastal ecosystems, as well as the lives and livelihoods that's dependent on it. And Commodore P.K. Srivastava very nicely had enunciated all the work that the ministry has been doing through its various agencies. And if you look at that, it's a whole gamut of things, and all these agencies are very specialized agencies. And each of them are very focused on technology, on communicating, creating awareness, documenting, looking at what are the research that's happening. So through all of them, we have this opportunity to accelerate actions on the ground and also at the international policy level. So like Commodore Srivastava spoke about BBNJ, we also have the plastics treaty that's under discussions. And that is going to have a huge impact on the underwater domain and the oceans and the marine and the coastal ecosystems as impactful as it would be on the land. So whatever the runoffs that we have from the land, it ends up in the oceans. So plastic that we have seen, the pollution that flows, the ocean-based pollution of the plastic, it flows from the land through the rivers, through the canals, through the channels into our oceans. And that impacts our ecosystems, our livelihoods. So this treaty is going to be a very important treaty. It's the discussions are on for it to be either is it going to be legally binding or non-binding, and that's going to be one major point of discussions. The other point of discussion would be essentially on the financing of these kind of treaties. We also have the CUMIN Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, which is again under the CBD, and that again has a very drastic implications for our marine ecosystem, which is the 30 by 30. How do you protect your oceans? So the 30 by 30, the whole through marine spatial planning, how do you enhance your protections of the marine ecosystem? So on the policy front, there are numerous policies that's coming up, that's under discussions, that's under negotiations. And BBNJ, as Commodore Srivastava said, is now up to us for, endorsing it, signing it off for ratification. So there are these opportunities where we can accelerate action, where we can contribute towards more research. A lot of research. We probably know more of the universe than we know of the oceans. So probably what MRC is doing is really, really commendable, and hats off to all of you for picking up this topic and trying to bring in more of knowledge to all of us. And that's what I think the young leadership going forward needs to do more. Like take on the task of more research, more explorations of the underwater domain, and more knowledge sharing is what we need. And that's what we do on these occasions. And we need to do that more often. And thank you so much for this opportunity. Over to you. Thank you.